This is not me. I swear. One of the folks that I asked to get background about you said an interview with Chris would be a miss without asking him about the Hall of Fame. So I have to ask you about the Hall of Fame. This is my excuse to ask you about it. Like, is it still a sore spot for you? Or are you over it? Or like, how do you feel about that?
Um, uh, I think I'm over it because in many ways the damage has been done. Like, well, first of all, it's not even clear that the Magic Hall of Fame even is a thing anymore. Like they aren't putting new people
Yeah, it's
in.
kind of weird now.
Yeah, I
It's
so
on
obviously that
hold.
has soured it. But yeah, I mean the thing that used to drive me I mean it's just the fact that if I had just got into the Hall of Fame the first time I came close, or the first time if I had inflamed correctly and got in that next year, I just would have got to play in so many pro tours. Like I missed the whole era really of like people getting a testing house and hanging out for a week before the tournament, uh, and it's a lot. I mean, I could have played in like 60 more pro tours or something crazy, or 40. I don't know. Really, a lot of time. So that just would have been a lot of tournaments, hanging out with my friends at a time in my life where I would have really enjoyed that. Um, and I can't get if they put me in the Hall of Fame tomorrow, I don't get that back, right? So,
Right, that's true. It's past, yeah.
so in that sense, it doesn't matter. And um, yeah, I think I am kind of over it. I, I I do think I got unlucky in a bunch of random ways. Um, and I I definitely had some like burnout associated with it. I think I did worse at Magic because of it. For there was a 2 year period where I was not in a great mental state about it, I would say. Like especially the year where I was like, I don't know if you how closely you followed this, but there was well essentially they changed the Pro Tour system over time, the Pro Point system. So if you had the same results in the Pro Tour in the late 2000s versus your results in the Pro Tour in the like late 90s, early 2000s, you would just have more pro points in the late 2000s just because they slightly changed how the system worked. So because I played mostly under the old system, they were going to up the threshold to be eligible for the ballot. So I was going to become ineligible to be on the Hall of Fame ballot because even though if I had obviously if my results were from 2007, I would still be on it. So there was a year where I had to start playing again to stay on the ballot. Um, that year was not good for me mentally because I was basically forcing myself to go to tournaments that I wasn't excited about, uh, and going to tournaments when maybe like it wasn't a great scheduling thing with my family. Um, yeah, there was a real bad Hall of Fame period where it got talked about a ton online. Um, I had a situation where, like a Magic player I was friends with, I like tried to help him get a job, and then like 2 months later, he wrote an article about why I shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. That was kind of weird. Uh, I'm sure he was saying he was just that's just being rational, and that was his opinion, but it didn't feel great.
Hmm.
Um, but it hit a point where I felt like if I hadn't tried to get back on the ballot, people would have been like disappointed in me, and that put a lot of weird pressure. I put a lot of weird pressure on myself, where Magic started to feel more like a responsibility than something I felt like
Yeah.
doing because yeah, I don't know. I got in a weird head state there for a while. I'm not in
Yeah,
that anymore.
that's a weird out of body experience kind of
Right.
thing.
And
Yeah.
and and in, so over there was like a 2 or 3 year period where I could point to a handful of tournaments where I just sort of like reached a breaking point and kind of like, you know, just should have had a good tournament and didn't because my mental state around all that stuff just got bad. Uh, yeah, it was just too much. It was just too much Hall of Fame discourse, too much people. Yeah, I mean, when you have like 50 people come up to you at a tournament and be like, "Oh, I hope you get back on the ballot. You should be in there. It's a travesty."
Yeah.
You don't want to tell them, "Oh, I'm not even trying to get back on the ballot." Like it just feels, and
Yeah.
yeah, or maybe I was just
People
like,
campaigning for you, writing articles about you. I know you said there's some people who wrote against you, but I've read lots that were for you. It's just like
yeah.
election season.
Oh,
So
there's like a big Reddit thread from a long time ago about me not being in the Hall of Fame, and people still send it to me. I had a coworker like 3 months ago out of nowhere be like, "Hey man, I read this old Reddit thread about you," and I was just like, "Yeah, like I
have
had
you seen this thing?
I had a different coworker be like, I've never seen so many positive things said about anyone ever. Like it's just like, and I'm like, yeah, so yeah, I was
How do
like,
you respond to that?
and yeah, it's all very nice, but it did like, I did reach a point where it felt like I was trying to get back on the ballot for like other people, even though I
Yeah.
did want to be in the Hall of Fame. I did obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, and then like yeah, and the way like I basically missed by one vote one time, and then I kind of missed by one vote another time, and then there
Mhm.
was the year where I would have got in if they'd used the previous year's rules, but they changed the rules, so I missed. Like it was just there's been a lot of like also
Mhm.
random stuff, so it was like it was stressful. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of it maybe happened during a period of my life where I wasn't um, as happy all the time too, so maybe that or maybe it was making me unhappy. I don't know. I feel like I would handle it better now. Um, but I definitely did worse at Magic for a period of time for like I think was definitely had some psychological reasons
Mhm.
with it, and part of it was all just like this weird pressure I put on myself that
Yeah.
I don't think I would do now. I still sometimes feel um, like it is very uneven payoff. Like me doing poorly at a tournament feels worse than me doing kind of well at a tournament. Like I have to like if I do horrible at a tournament and everyone knows it, like I have like to offset that, I literally have to win the tournament. I can't like just have a good tournament. Still
Mhm.
feels that like that a little bit sometimes, which I think is
Yeah.
um I mean that's a pretty common thing in gambling where losses feel worse than
That's
wins
such
feel
a
good.
surreal experience, like to have that kind of sorry, I know this is like people have asked you this before, but like just to have this kind of magic celebrity, like I on it like that's just really that's tough, right? I mean,
I mean
it
it's not I mean it's
well, I mean, as you said, it's mostly good
it's
compliments from people, but there's still this kind of like thing where, people think of Chris Pikula, and that's divorced from like who you are as an actual person, you know?
uh well interestingly a lot of my Magic Celebrity is more from me as a person than my results. So in that sense,
That okay, fair, fair. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
so
yeah.
in that sense,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people,
In terms of
you
your
know,
interests and what
right.
you
Well,
what
people
you
used to
like to
love,
do.
I used to do like Pro Tour commentary, and people used to
Yeah.
love that. And then, a lot of people uh, love the fact that I was anti-cheating and helped with that. Like, so a lot of the treatment I get in the Magic community is actually about me as a person, not just because I won a bunch of tournaments, because I did not. I did not win a bunch of tournaments. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's complicated.
Okay, well,
As
in that case,
many,
it's mostly good.
uh, anytime that you get yourself kind of like mentally tied up in weird ways, it's going to be complicated, I guess, and maybe not make sense. Sound like it makes sense after the fact. Uh, but yeah, the Hall of Fame stuff definitely messed me up for a while. But it definitely just mostly messed me up within Magic. It wasn't like I was at home with my family and friends depressed about not being in the Hall of Fame. It wasn't
Yeah.
that. But it was like when I'm going to Magic tournaments messing me up for sure. But
Yeah,
that wasn't
yeah,
that
yeah.
long of a period of time, but it was happening.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I mean, as you said at the very beginning of this conversation, like you're in a much better space right now. So it's, that hopefully this is all kind of like stuff that you processed and it's in the past. So